Ugh. And we are live. What is up, everybody? And welcome to a special edition of the Hot Stove Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Nunez, and I'm here with the other one.
That's me. I'm Mark.
Mark. It's just the two of us tonight, and we're going to be doing a little something special for you. We're going to be doing a crossover episode here.
Yes.
We got Hot Stove X the C-listers. And we'll get into a little bit of that in a moment. But first things first, before I even get into the content of the episode, make sure to follow us on Twitter at HotStovePod. That's at HotStovePod on Twitter. And then here on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, hit the notification bell as well so you get notified when we're putting out new content. Mark, since this is also a C-listers episode, you get to plug stuff. So go
ahead. I will also plug the YouTube channel for now. That is the C Listers. That's C-listers. And I keep, if you're interested and like the podcast on YouTube, there might be the website coming back. I temporarily don't have the domain to that. But I don't think... I only had like a year thing on it.
Oh, right.
And didn't
paying for that.
Yeah, and I didn't renew it. Because it was the middle of COVID and movies weren't coming out. And I was like, it's going to be very difficult to keep this podcast going. But new movies are coming out again. It's a thing I would like to do again. So that is, I'll just say it's the c-listers.com.
All right, I'll put both of those in the description as well. So the c-listers.com as well as the C-listers here on YouTube. Is there a Twitter handle for that podcast, Mark?
There isn't. It's just follow me on Twitter. MP Rollins 99.
Cool. MP Rollins 99 on Twitter. Follow him as well. So this is going to be going up on both channels. So for those looking out on the C-listers channel, follow Hot Stove, bitches. If you want your best sports talk, and if you don't want sports talk, we have a whole playlist on the channel now of our After Dark episodes where we very clearly don't talk about sports. So, that's what this episode is anyways. And now, to the meat and potatoes of this video. I don't even have any trivia tonight. I was going to get some, fun movie trivia, and it just didn't end up.
I believe I have some.
Okay. Well, we're going to be doing for content tonight is that Mark and I have both compiled a list of our 15 favorite action movies of all time. So Mark was in Rochester yesterday, and we watched T2, Terminator 2 Judgment Day last night, and we were talking about our favorite action movies, so it became this episode. Now, preface this by saying that we've had a hard time figuring out what qualifies for this kind of a list, and we decided to keep it to, your straight up, shoot 'em up kind of action movies. We didn't include something that could be. We tried to keep away from genre blending a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest one that you won't see here is the Indiana Jones films. We talked about this a lot. It's if you watch the Spielberg episode, you know how much we love the Indiana Jones movies.
Love them.
And I made it very clear that if it qualified, Raiders of the Lost Ark would be number one for me. It wouldn't be close.
Mm-hmm.
Because Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of my 5 or 10 favorite movies ever. So those movies aren't on here. We figured I at least my rationale behind it was I was like, oh, this is more of an adventure kind of deal, right? And Star Wars isn't on here because I consider it to be a space opera, like a sci-fi
that's exactly
fantasy
what it is.
epic. And that's the reason. And I don't know. I'll hold it till later because I don't know if it's going to show up on your list. It's a movie we talked about last night, but I left it off because I don't consider it to be much of an action movie, even though it's very influential to many of the action movies that came after it. So I left it off the list. But
I think I might know what movie you're talking about, and if it is the one I'm thinking of, yes, it's on my list.
Okay, so if it is, I'll let you know. And like I said, that movie in particular, when we get to that, if it were on my list, if I had felt like it qualified, it would have been very high.
Yes.
But it isn't. So I'm putting that out there. These are movies I thought of, and we'll get to it. Obviously, we'll think of things as we're going that we might have forgotten. But Mark, you said you had a movie to bring up in the first place that you wanted to get my opinion on.
Yeah, so it goes into this whole, like, is it action movie or more? This one really is drama. And there's a lot of action in it, but not as much as people think. And it's First Blood.
I knew that was what you were bringing up. Yes, I do consider First Blood an action movie.
Okay, then it's gonna stay on my list because I had it was either going to be First Blood, or if it didn't think it was action packed enough, I had another option, which is also still going to be on the list. Yeah. But
I consider it a First Blood. Someone's in a hot air balloon. Sorry, we're watching the
we've got the Field of Dreams. It's phenomenal.
On, right? And someone was in a hot air balloon over the cornfields. It was pretty cool. I consider First Blood to be an action movie, at least. And I understand that.
Doesn't he only kill one person?
What did you say?
Doesn't he have one kill in the entire movie? At the end? I think that's his only kill in the movie. But
yeah, I don't know.
It is,
It feels like an action movie.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because the rest of the Rambo series has become like a caricature of itself.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's that, but I mean, so this is the problem. When I did my research earlier, like I told Mark beforehand, I was doing it for well over an hour, trying to really comb through a bunch of stuff to make sure I didn't forget any movies. And First Blood was one that came up a lot. Other ones that like came up a lot that I didn't really think were like action movies were, again, like Indiana Jones and Star Wars. And there's a couple others that I can't remember now, but I remember seeing a few and I was like, I don't agree with that. But anyways, let's get into the list. Mark, you have honorable mentions, right?
Yeah. First, I didn't know if you want to do. I do have a few movie trivia questions
Sure.
that I asked on the radio show a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you were listening.
I was not, so I do not know the answers to these questions.
So, I've just got a few movie trivia questions. First one, great movie that if it's been on, we've discussed it at length on an episode prior of my podcast, The C-Listers, is Goodfellas. Do you know how many Oscars Goodfellas actually won?
So if you're asking the question, it's probably less than you'd think. So I'll say 1.
It is 1.
Okay.
It's Joe Pesci for Best Supporting Actor as Tommy, who was phenomenal.
Right. Joe Pesci also, by the way, he didn't win for The Irishman, right?
Yes, he did.
He did? Okay. Because I was about to say, if he didn't, I remember feeling like he deserved to win.
He did. It was a phenomenal performance.
Albeit, though, when you asked me, I think we had this conversation, we talked about The Irishman. I'm almost certain I said on the podcast that I thought Pacino deserved it over him, and I would like to rescind that statement if I ever said it publicly. Like, point that out. Pacino was incredible in that movie as Jimmy Hoffa, but that's beside the point. Oh,
everyone was great. De Niro was great. Harvey Keitel in his very limited role was great. Ray Romano, I thought, stole every scene he was in. I thought he was fantastic.
Action Bronson was in the movie?
Yes, he was. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. So speaking of rated R movies, do you know what the highest grossing rated R movie of all time is?
Is it Deadpool?
It was. It is no longer Deadpool.
Oh, shit. Can I get another guess?
Yeah, you can get a few guesses.
Okay. God. It's come out since Deadpool. That was huge. The Deadpool 2.
It's not.
Okay.
I think that might have also had it and then was passed.
Okay, I'll take one more guess here.
Okay.
Damn. Now I'm just trying to rack my brain over like really high grossing movies that aren't rated PG-13, because like every highest grossing movie on the planet is like PG-13. Oh boy.
Oh my, Aaron Judge just hit one over the cornfield.
Oh boy. I'm a little behind you. Did you see Aaron Judge's cleats? I
did. They're very cool.
He's got the signatures of all the Yankee greats on the toes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, what could it possibly be? Is it Logan?
It isn't, but it is a comic book movie.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
It's Joker.
Joker. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Which I think I have Joker at 95 out of 100. I love Joker.
We did a review for Joker when it came out, if I remember correctly.
Yes, we did. It was the clown episode. We also reviewed It Chapter 2.
Yes.
So, next one. Have you seen Full Metal Jacket?
I have not. Wow, he hit that ball very far.
Well, Full Metal Jacket has one very famous scene.
Yeah.
Where the drill sergeant is going through and doing drill sergeant things. Who played the drill sergeant?
I played the drill sergeant. Is that your question?
That's the question.
Oh, I used to know this too because I've seen him do a bunch of interviews about it. I can't tell you. I don't know.
He was also in 7, if that helps. He was he was like the police chief in 7.
Yeah.
R. Lee Ermey.
R. Lee Ermey. Got it.
Just passed away last year or 2 years ago, I think.
Because the first name that came to mind was Robert E. Lee, and I knew
that would have been a good guess.
Yeah.
Fun fact: he wasn't supposed to be in Full Metal Jacket. He was hired as an advisor to the guy who was going to play the drill sergeant because R. Lee Ermey is a very decorated Marine.
Yes.
And so he was hired to be an advisor, and then on the day, the guy that was supposed to play the drill sergeant just didn't show up. And they were like, hey, R. Lee Ermey, can you just do this instead? And he improvised that entire, I think it's 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's long.
And it's incredible. How tall are you, Private? 5'9", sir. I didn't think they stack shit that high. Just incredible. And one last one.
Okay.
Which ties into the game that's on right now.
Is it a Field of Dreams question?
It is a Field of Dreams question.
Okay.
One character in Field of Dreams that might be my favorite part of the movie is Archibald Moonlight Graham.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who got one at bat, or was supposed to get one at bat and never got it.
Yeah.
Who played the old version? The dentist. And I will say it is a Hollywood legend.
Is it James Earl Jones?
No, not. He's the old white guy with the mustache.
Oh, old white guy.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen the movie.
Yeah, he's the dentist. Kevin Costner goes to visit him and tells him about the field. He's like, I want you to come see this.
Oh, shit. Speaking of which, while I'm thinking about this, did you see the feature they ran before the game about... No, I can't remember his name.
I mean, I watched a bit of the pregame.
So you did?
Oh, the Jeff Bannister one?
Yes.
Yeah, it was awesome.
The guy who legitimately got one at bat?
Yeah, and he went 1 for 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It is legend of stage and screen Burt Lancaster.
I don't recognize the name. I probably recognize what he's in.
Yeah, he's in, I believe it's From Here to Eternity. He's in a lot of classics from the 50s, 40s and 50s. And it was one of his last film roles was Field of Dreams.
Gotcha. Well, that's exciting. Field of Dreams game is going on right now. It's really cool. So we'll move on here and we'll start talking about our list proper. Mark, how many honorable mentions do you have?
Probably, I'm trying to think. Like I said, I didn't write them down, but 7 or 8.
Okay. All right. So I'll give off a few, and you give off a couple, and we'll kind of just bounce around, right? So I kind of broke up my honorable mentions into kind of actually different categories. Now that I look at it, we've got the first category. First 3 films are really stupid, but are some of my favorite action movies of all time. And that would be The Running Man, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. We talked about that last night. It's one of my personal favorite Schwarzenegger movies. Then we have one of my favorite Stallone movies, Over the Top.
Oh, but Over the Top was not a movie I expected to get a mention on this podcast.
Over the Top is such a dumb movie.
It is the definition of schlock.
That is such a dumb movie, but it's so much fun. Over the Top, and then third, I think is the best of the really stupid, is Commando, my third favorite Arnold movie.
Commando is also an honorable mention for me.
Yes, Commando fucking rules.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that movie many, many times. And like I said, one of my favorite Schwarzenegger movies. It's like the epitome of like a testosterone-fueled shoot-'em-up action movie. Like, it's like the dumbest plot ever. Buff guy's kid gets stolen, and he's got to get him back. And the guy who stole the kid from, they fuck with the wrong guy because he can shoot a lot of people. And that, and that's the movie. And it's great. It's fantastic. So, Mark, why don't you give a couple, now that I think about it?
Yeah, so like I said, Commando was one for me. One that I left off, but I want to mention it because it's more of an action comedy, and I sort of strayed away from that. Are we still going here? Or...
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You were frozen on my screen for a second. More of an action comedy that I love is True Lies.
I see.
I'm a huge fan of True Lies. Jamie Lee Curtis is great. Arnold's great. It's one of my favorite Arnold movies. One I don't have on the list that should be on the list is the original Terminator. It just missed for me. And another more modern one is John Wick 2. I think John Wick 2 is like very similar in quality to the first one, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, John Wick 2 was one that couldn't quite just make it for me.
You want to know something funny? John Wick 2 is actually my least favorite of the three so far. I like it a lot.
The third one's my least favorite, but I just think it's a touch below the first two.
But I really loved the third one. Anyway, my next category of honorable mentions is going to be two comic book movies. One of them, like the ultimate badass, like rated R comic movie that started the whole thing. That's Blade. Blade, again, one of my favorite comic movies, one of my favorite action movies. Wesley Snipes is like the perfect casting in a comic book movie ever. There's no other human that could possibly play Blade.
Blade has one of my favorite lines in comic book movie history.
What's that?
Well, I was going to say, like, it's like one of the more famous ones from the movie. I just love it. And I believe it's rated R, Blade. It's motherfuckers always try to ice skate uphill.
It's like I said, it's the perfect. Wesley Snipes is like the perfect casting.
Yeah.
In that movie, and I love Blade so much. I haven't seen it in a while. I really should go back and watch it. It's on HBO Max. I should go watch it again. That movie fucking rules. Yeah. And then the other comic book movie is 2012's Dredd, starring Carl Urban.
Ooh, Dredd's a great one.
Dredd is what I would consider what the Robocop remake. Oh, Mark is doing a thing. So I'm going to talk right now for a little bit. Dredd, personally, I don't know if you guys have seen the original Dredd with Sylvester Stallone, but that movie has one of my favorite bad lines in movie history. I started to vamp while you were talking to your dad or whatever. So
thank you.
I'm talking about the original Judge Dredd with Stallone in it.
Is it the law line?
Yes, it's one of my favorite bad lines ever. He goes, "I am the law," and the guy looks back at him, "Law,"
with the greatest face in movie history.
Yeah.
I can't think of the actor that plays it. It's escaping me right now, but just like his eyes light up. He's so happy to say this line.
Yeah. Dredd 2012 Dredd with Carl Urban is
fantastic.
What the RoboCop remake should have been.
I like the RoboCop remake.
Dredd and RoboCop are similar stories. They're not dissimilar, I should say.
Yeah.
And I think that the way it was so, and Dredd is also a movie that I haven't seen in forever because it's not on any streaming services and I don't own it yet.
Yeah.
So I need to like find a way to watch that movie because I absolutely love it.
It's funny you
Dread is
mentioned.
one of the. It's so
Go ahead.
stylishly shot. It's one of like the most badass like comic book adaptations you'll ever see. It's great. It's fantastic.
It's funny you mentioned the Robocop remake because the original Robocop is an honorable mention of mine. I really like the original Robocop. I get it's cheesy. I get it doesn't look great at points, but it's just in terms of just like crazy 80s action movies. I mean, the guy's literally a cyborg.
Mark, you don't have to convince me. We'll be talking about RoboCop a little bit later.
Okay. I love RoboCop.
Yeah, you got a couple more for me before I get into my next category?
Yeah, I was going to have one more, and then I just flopped and put it back on my list, as I've done 4 times now. So I can just get to that one. It's number 15, because I was flipping it between RoboCop. Oh, it's Josh.
Josh Bowie was joined.
On my way home,
what are you up to right now, Josh?
In classic, it seems I've only been driving on the show lately. Barely backing into a car right now. I'm driving home from a work dinner right before my midterm in a couple minutes. So I got a quick 20 to burn on the way home. Figured I'd hop in and provide my useless takes.
We're going through so we're doing our top 15 action movies of all time.
Okay.
And we're going through our honorable mentions right now. So we're right around a good time. We were just talking about comic book movies. Two of the two, we kind of left all of the MCU off.
Yeah.
Me at least, because I think all of the movies that I mentioned I would rather watch than like an MCU film. But like, Mark may have had different reasons for leaving them off.
So
like, I also kind of held them off to hold them off because like if I like allowed all of them to be there, then like Winter Soldier at the very least would be somewhere in like honorable mentions.
Absolutely.
So this an example of a comic book movie that would have made it would be like The Watchmen, maybe, or what would be an example of one that's a comic book movie that is considered for this? I'm not.
Well, I've got one right now.
Okay,
shoot.
It's in another honorable mention, which I'm assuming will be on your list because we were talking about it last night. Sin City, just missed my list. But I do have a comic book movie that I decided to put on number 15, and it's Kingsman: The Secret Service, which I have at a 90 out of 100.
Damn.
The first Kingsman.
Both those movies that you just mentioned, neither of them are on my list. They're not in the honorable mentions. They're nowhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah. First of all, Kingsman: The Secret Service is the first one, right?
Yeah, the first one.
Okay, that movie's excellent.
Yeah.
I like Sin City a lot, but I didn't even really think about it when I was making the list, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. But yeah, Kingsman: The Secret Service is just one of the most beautifully shot action movies I've ever seen. Everyone talks about it, but the church scene is so good.
Yeah.
I know it's like it's the mainstream scene from the movie or whatever. It's phenomenal. And this one, it was tough because it's a comic book movie and it's also a comedy. Like, it's a satire of James Bond and stuff, but the action is too good for me to not have it have it on my list.
All right, so Mark, before you go any further, I still have 5 more honorable mentions.
Oh, okay, go for it.
So my next category is franchise favorites, is what I'm calling it. So I got 2 movies that are picked out of a franchise that I think are worth mentioning. That I didn't have on the list. One of them being my favorite Mission Impossible movie, and that's Mission Impossible Fallout is on my list as an honorable mention.
That's an honorable mention for you?
Yes.
Interesting.
And then another one is one of my favorite Bond films, Goldeneye, is an honorable mention for me as well.
That's not the Bond film I thought you were going to pick.
Trust me, we have more Bond coming up.
Okay, good.
I love GoldenEye. Martin Campbell is my favorite Bond director. In both GoldenEye and Casino Royale. I mean, you can't beat in terms of like starting off with Bond. And then also my last 3 honorable mentions are all foreign language, I think. I think they're all foreign language, if I remember correctly. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yes.
One of the most beautiful movies you'll ever see in your life. I hold
Mhm.
to that. The other one is Enter the Dragon from 1973. Was that movie in Japanese or was it in English?
It's in Japanese, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I think there's an English dub.
Yeah. Bruce Lee's obviously his most famous role. It's an iconic movie. I had to put it on there at least for the culture. And then my last honorable mention being a movie that we talked about yesterday, and I put it on there because it has one of my absolute favorite action set pieces of all time, with a guy, a hallway, and a hammer, and that's Old Boy from 2003. Another great movie that you should definitely seek out.
I'll get to those.
It's a tough watch, but Old Boy is absolutely worth seeking out. That's my last honorable mention. Now I'll go with number 15 since Mark already went with his.
Yeah.
Or Josh, actually, while Josh is here, do you have any action movies that you want to bring up that are like some of your favorites?
I'm just gonna spoil yours because I have no honorable mentions. All of mine, we talked about it last night briefly, and like all of the action movies that I would consider great action films are at the top. The only one that probably isn't in anyone else's top is like I dug the first Transformers movie, to be honest with you. I was really into that. I think that counts, right? Did we say that counts or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, that counts.
All right, sweet. So the first Transformers, yeah, I don't know. T2 we just watched last night. That was a sick movie. I was telling my boss about that tonight at work. I was like, yo, you ever seen this movie? He's like, have I seen that movie? Yeah. And
That's
that's pretty sick. I was like, yeah, I've seen the movie. I was like, yeah, it's pretty dope. He's like, yeah, it's good. It's a good movie. I was like, yeah, so I don't know. I'm just here for the fun of it, you know. It's just a bored ride home, and I'm just in for this, you know. I'm in for the knowledge. I'm as a viewer on this episode more, you know. I don't really have anything to tell the people. I have no takes on action. I find most action to be useless, as I told you last night.
Well,
yeah.
But I dug it.
Also, don't feel ashamed about bringing up Transformers because Eli Manning just hit his second home run of the night. Or no, I was confused. No, that was just his first. It was a 3-run homer. Okay, cool. What was I gonna say? Oh, one of the movies I had my honorable mentions was Over the Top, starring Sylvester Stallone. A movie where he quite literally arm wrestles to get custody of his son back. He's a truck driver, loses his son, and needs to enter an arm wrestling tournament to get his son back, and that's the movie. Like, it's really stupid. Like,
Dude, it must have been so easy to get fucking like people in Hollywood to give you money back in the day. If you just made one good movie at any time, like Stallone, right? He makes Rocky, and everyone's like, "Dude, this guy's making nothing but hits." And then he's like, "So hear me out. It's me, and I gotta win an arm wrestling contest." And they're like, "We love it. I'll give you $300 million. Go make it, kid." And he's like, "Thanks." I mean, it's just fucking dumb as fuck. I love it though. It sounds great.
I actually have, I think it's 4 movies from 1987 on my list.
Really?
And Over the Top is one. The Running Man is another.
Okay.
Those are both from 1987. 2 more that I think should be shoo-ins for the top 15. Well, Robocop, Mark already mentioned, is also from 1987.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then another one that we will absolutely be speaking about later is from my top. But anyways, I'll get into my top 15 because Mark already gave his number 15. That was Kingsman: The Secret Service. My number 15 is out of genre a little bit for the director. I saw it. I told Mark saw it for the first time probably about a year ago, and that is Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken in Escape from New York. And like I said, saw it for the first time at a horror fest last year, and I was honestly blown away watching it. I thought it was a really cool take on the action genre. Being that John Carpenter directed it, like it was, I thought what he brought from horror to action is super unique, and is not easily duplicated. I mean, we know because they made Escape from LA and it wasn't good.
I think Escape from LA is fine. I don't think it's not nearly as good as Escape from.
There's an Escape from New York remake in development. And you know who's directing it?
I don't.
It is Lee Winnell.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm very interested in that.
Yeah. Very, very interested in that. So that's my number 15.
Yeah, Escape from New York slipped my mind. So I will. That would have. I knew there was one big one I forgot that should have been in my top 10, and there it is.
And there it is.
That's the one. I was looking at my list. I'm like, God, I'm missing one. Oh, there's one that needs to be in the top 10 that isn't here. And yep, it's Escape from. I know for a fact I have Escape from New York listed or rated at a 93, which would put it ninth on this list.
Did you just go by your ratings that you have?
Yeah, there were some I wanted to update.
Gotcha.
Because like Predator, which we'll get to, I had listed, or I originally had rated it like an 80 because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and then I rewatched it over the summer and forgot to update my rating, and it's much higher than an 80 now.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Mark. What's your number 14?
This I also gave a 90, and you mentioned it's Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
Enter the Dragon is phenomenal. Bruce Lee, just in terms of being so incredible at one thing, like just so, but just all of his martial arts is just so impressive to watch, and the display put on in Enter the Dragon is just unbelievable. And I would have been upset with myself if I didn't have it in my top 15. So
I'd like to point out a couple of things here. First of all, it's crazy that Bruce Lee became such a global phenomenon. We really only had like 4 starring roles.
Yeah, and
like that.
One of them was very good, and the rest were okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'll be straight with you. Enter the Dragon as a movie is okay.
I really like it.
I reckon that the screenplay in particular is really bad, but
it's not great.
What elevates it is Bruce Lee's mastery.
Yes.
Like, he's the original. I bring this up because I'm a huge MMA fan. He's the original mixed martial artist. He was the first person in public to combine different martial arts to create a completely new style. I still haven't watched the 30 for 30 on him. I really should.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So I love the pick. It's one of my honorable mentions. So number 14 for me is the oldest film that I have on any of these lists, and that is my second favorite Bond movie, and that is Goldfinger.
Yep.
We talked about it yesterday. Goldfinger is my second favorite Bond film. I love everything about the movie. I mean, it's hard to talk about a lot of these movies because like there's not really much I can say about it.
Yeah, it's like what are we gonna say about Goldfinger that every other person who's ever seen Goldfinger hasn't said about it already?
Right. It's like the quintessential spy thriller. Like,
yes,
it's the spy movie.
It has the single most parodied scene in the history of spy movies, with Bond on the
repelling thing.
No, the laser. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
When he's like tied down and the laser's gonna cut him in half. You expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond. I expect you to die.
I expect you to die. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, come on.
It's the most parodied scene in spy movie history, and I'll have more comments on Goldfinger. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, Mark. Number 13. What do you got coming up next?
So I've got a 12 through 14 are like a grouping for me. Okay. Similar to you did in your honorable mentions. I have Raid Redemption at 13, which probably should be higher in a lot of people's eyes. I have it at 91. It's a phenomenal movie. It was just hard for me. Like, putting together this part of the list was the hardest for me. And I love Raid Redemption. It's just one of those things where it's like I don't think I could justify it going. I don't remember what the actor's name is that we were talking about last night.
Neither do I.
Another one I forgot to mention in my honorable mentions, by the way, which I just thought was Ip Man. Ip Man's fantastic with Donnie Yen. Ip Man is also a great movie. And it was Raid's Indonesian, right?
Yes, the raid is infinite.
Yeah. So Raid Redemption is number 13 for me. Just again, there isn't much else I can say about it. It's just watch Raid Redemption, please.
You know, I really had to like nut up here and just start like stop being like, oh, this movie needs to be higher, and just go off of like what movies I like. Because I had to slay some sacred cows here to be able to make the list that I was happy with.
I did as well.
Number 13 for me is a movie that I refer to as having the perfect action plot, and that's Speed from 1994. You set it up, right? Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock on a bus. Dennis Hopper put a bomb on the bus, and if the bus goes lower than 55 miles an hour, it blows up. Keanu Reeves has to save the day. There's no other action plot that is ripe for that much tension and that much excitement. Like automatic hook. You're in the story, and boom, Keanu Reeves has to save the day, and they're going fast in the middle of a crowded city. It's not higher because I don't think the movies is as good as the movies above it, but on plot and concept alone, and I do think it's a good movie, but on idea alone, it has some.
Keanu's a little rough around the edges back then.
Yeah,
that's where it really like. I love Speed, but it loses some for me. Like Keanu's just a little too rough around the edges for him. And Dennis Hopper is one of my favorite actors, and especially in terms of playing villains. Dennis Hopper is a phenomenal villain actor. He's great in that movie, and it almost makes up for Keanu, but not quite.
It's for some of these action movies though, like we'll talk about on the list. Like I kind of throw away when I think about performances.
There's
like,
some I do
forgive that the performances aren't very good at Robocop. Like you know, like we talked about Over the Top. We talked about Commando. You know, you know, like there's some of these movies. Like I said, I'm kind of willing to forgive bad performances in the lieu of just like balls to the wall action and excitement. You know, and Speed delivers the excitement factor to me. By the way,
absolutely.
Josh, didn't mention it when you got here. What do you think? We talked about comic book movies earlier. What's your opinion on Blade?
Well, you know, it's a tough one to talk about, mostly because I haven't seen it. So I got nothing. All I know is that it did come up tonight when we talked about action films at the dinner table, and the woman in Blade is I don't know her name. Did you guys know the main lady in Blade? Anyone?
It's she's not a huge name, I don't think.
One dude, this guy, he has a special talent. One of the delivery drivers from work who has a special talent for naming any woman in any like movie from like 80 to 99, and even now, like he is just an encyclopedia of whores from film. It's pretty special actually.
Her name is.
You had this conversation at a work dinner tonight.
What's that?
You said you tell me you had this conversation at a work dinner tonight?
Yeah, well, it was more of like, you know, the Trotto's guy. We just go out and have a nice fancy dinner with your tip money that people so graciously give us every once in a while. So, yeah, we went out to a nice dinner, and it came up because I was talking about action films, and T2 came up, and then the woman from that movie was in another thing that we were talking about, and then he was like, oh, yeah, dude, she was in Blade, too. What a fucking... Blah, blah, blah. So, he's just a dog, dude. What can I say?
I have her name, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of her first name. In Bushe, it's N''Bushe. In Bush,
right.
Bushy Wright is her name. She's been in a few things. But another thing, I always forget that Chris Christopherson is Whistler.
Yeah.
I remember the Whistler character. I never remember that it's Chris Christopherson that plays it. What a wild movie for Chris Christopherson to pop up in. I mean, this guy was.
Forget that,
gents.
What were you gonna say, Josh?
I will take this brief moment to say I am now home, and I appreciate the last 20 minutes These guys really know their movies, folks. Let them show you something, because I got nothing to add. So I'm gonna show myself out here now. But enjoy,
Right, bye, Josh.
gentlemen. Keep going. I'll watch.
Thanks for stopping by, pal.
Yeah, of course.
What were you saying about Chris Christopherson?
Like, he was in the 1973 A Star Is Born. Like,
yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
Like, that's what I think of Chris Christopherson. And he was in I think he was in Nashville, which is like another musical from the 70s. And then he's just a Whistler?
Yeah.
Like,
you know what you might also
crazy.
forget? That did you see that they built the house from the movie?
No, that was already there.
Oh, it was already there. They just got other shots from it.
Yeah.
I thought they built a replica of the house at the field.
Oh no, that's actually a person's house. A family owned that house for like 100 years, and then they also, I believe, the family built the baseball field, and they were just big baseball fans, and they were like, "We need to film this movie here."
What was I gonna say? Oh, I bet you forget that Ryan Reynolds was in Blade Trinity.
Oh, I don't forget, because him and Wesley Snipes fucking hated each other.
Oh, that movie's terrible. So
it is. Do you know the story about them having to CGI Wesley Snipes' eyes?
No.
Apparently, Wesley Snipes was so mad at the production of that film that at one point he just refused to open his eyes for a scene, and they had to CGI his eyes open.
That's funny. That's really funny.
It's one of the most wild movie production stories I've ever heard.
That's really good. All right, Mark, what do you got for number 12? That's where we're at now.
Like I said, I sort of grouped the foreign language movies in together. It's another one you mentioned. It's Old Boy, and it's 90% because of the hallway sequence. It is a tough watch, and there's some fucked up parts of that movie that I'm not going to spoil right now because it is a massive twist. But it's just, the action is so well done, and it is maybe the best single action set piece of all time. It's just phenomenal watching him go through that hallway, and he takes down like 80 dudes. And even if you don't want to watch the movie, look up that clip on YouTube and make sure it isn't the Josh Brolin version.
That's true.
I love Josh Brolin.
Keep coming out here. All right.
Yes, love Josh Brolin. That movie stinks.
All right, number 12 for me. I'm not sure it's actually going to show up on your list, so I guess we're talking about it now. It's another adaptation. That is 300.
It won't.
It is number 12 for me for a few reasons. First of all, I like the movie. I feel like that goes without saying. That's kind of why it's on the list. But
it's a good movie.
More importantly, a few things. First of all, I think that's the pinnacle for me, at least, of Zack Snyderism when it comes to filmmaking. Like, I think in terms of cinematography, like that, it's insane how well Zack Snyder and his crew were able to recreate Frank Miller's graphic novel on screen. I personally, for me, it's a marvel of action filmmaking in terms of like the visuals and everything of it. And then also, it's pretty inarguable that it changed the way action films went.
It did, for sure.
Future. Because after 300, and we'll talk about this with a different movie, did Heaney just allow another home run?
Maybe.
To Adam Engel? Really?
Oh, no, not to Engel.
Oh, okay. Engel grounds out. To the catcher? Really? Damn, this guy sucks. It's pretty irrefutable that like after 300, every action movie wanted to do like the slow motion, fast motion, slow motion, like all that kind of stuff. So I think, aside from the fact that I love the movie, I think 300 should be included in this conversation because of the impact that it had on action filmmaking.
Yeah, I won't deny that. It's not that I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder's style. I think he has a very distinctive style, and I think it works really well. In 300 it works, but it's just a little too much for me. Like, I think it's just a little overdone in 300. And I agree. Frank Miller is one of the hardest comic graphic novel writers to adapt. Just ask Frank Miller. He directed The Spirit, and it stinks.
Yeah, I mean, there have only been a couple people who have done it properly. Zack Snyder and Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah. But even Frank Miller couldn't adapt his own thing.
There's a reason no one has ever tried to make a Dark Knight Returns movie. All right, like
they they've done the animated.
Yes, yeah.
Which I don't really like the Dark Knight Returns comic.
Ooh,
it's fine. Ooh. I hate the art. The art really pisses me off. No, but the one I was thinking of, they just did one of my The Long Halloween. I'm very excited to see that. They just did a 2-part animated one for that. That's one of my favorite comics ever. But anyway,
I'm not smoking rocks. Sin City was a Frank Miller graphic novel, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Wait, it wasn't Alan Moore, was it?
No, Alan Moore did Watchmen.
Yeah, I know he did. But Alan Moore did a lot of things. I'm just making sure. Yeah, it's Frank Miller. But yeah, it's just I don't love 300. I don't deny the impact, but I don't adore the impact it had.
Gotcha.
So I'm that one I'm fine leaving off my list.
All right, what's number 11 for you?
Number 11 for me is another more recent one, and that's John Wick 1. Speaking of just unbelievable action plots,
I'll put it in right now. John Wick is also number 11 for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so just unbelievable action plots. They kill a guy's dog, and he then proceeds to kill 10,000 people.
I actually saw a quiz on this earlier. 77 people he kills in the run.
77.
Yeah, and then in John Wick 2, he kills 128 people.
That one I remember because I didn't see the first one in theaters. I saw the second one in theaters, and we looked it up after because we were trying to keep track and lost count.
Same. I saw the first one right after it came out, and then I've seen both of the other two in theaters.
Yeah. But John Wick's just incredible. I love Keanu Reeves. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a great actor because he isn't.
He's been good in things.
He's good in things, and I think he's good in John Wick. Even though, I'm thinking I'm back, should be one of the dumbest lines in the history of action movies. He makes it work. And it's just, the action is so well done. And I'm drawing a blank on the director's name.
I don't remember exactly who they were, but they were the stuntmen.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was the duo.
Yeah, they were the stuntmen for the Matrix, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Well, that's what I was going to get to, is when you have stunt coordinators directing action movies that are very stunt heavy, you get something like John Wick, where every stunt is just perfectly done. The action is incredible to watch. I just rewatched the second half of John Wick a few days ago, and it looks so good, dude.
Dude, the nightclub scene in John Wick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, they created a whole movie fighting style. I forgot what they call it. Gun Fu? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, it's Gun Fu.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's up there for me, partially because it's beautiful to look at. It's really well made. Blah blah blah. Keanu Reeves is great in it. But also, this is one of those ones where the action set pieces just take over, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those that comes up quite a few times on this list. Is in order to be a great action movie, you need memorable things. In John Wick, every single encounter is a memorable encounter. Every John Wick movie has the thing, right? In the first one, it's the nightclub. In the second one, for me at least, it's with him and God, now I can't remember. Help me out here. What am I thinking?
It depends on which part you're thinking about.
Is it the second one? Is the one where he's in the Hall of Mirrors, or is that the third one?
Yes, with Ruby Rose.
Yeah. Okay, that's the part that I'm thinking of in the second one.
Yeah.
In the third one, it's the opening chase where they go to the antique store and
so cool.
after he breaks Boban Marjanovich's face with a book in the library, and then they're on the motorcycle chase, and it goes to this antique store, and he's doing the knife things. Like every single one of those movies has a moment like that, and to me, I this is the point I wanted to bring up with John Wick, because I think there's an argument to be made that John Wick is the greatest action franchise in movie history.
I don't think it's an argument.
Mostly because they're not bad yet.
Yeah, that's the thing.
This is the thing, right? Like you have it. I also kind of argue that it's up there in terms of the great movie trilogies of all time. Because
I agree.
Normally, it's a very small list, right? It's Star Wars, Indiana Jones. What did you say?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
There was just another one I had.
I don't know.
I just had another one I was thinking of.
But like, the Bourne trilogy is one of the ones for me.
Yeah.
Then John Wick. Like I can't think of any other. Like all the other ones, they get to 2 movies and they're bad. Aliens, and then they fall off a cliff.
Alien 3 stinks.
T2, they fall off a cliff. It's very hard to have a really good.
The Dark Knight trilogy.
The Dark Knight trilogy, yeah. Yeah. Back to the Future trilogy is another one.
Yes, Back to the Future, of course.
It's pretty rare. So I think, again, just because the John Wick movies haven't gotten bad yet, is the reason why I would consider it to be one of the best action franchises of all time. All right, what's your number 10? We're getting to the top 10 here.
Yeah, top 10. This one is it. We talked about it, right? It's First Blood.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I slotted it in number 10. It's just one of the things I love about First Blood is why I was considering it, because it's not just an action movie; it's a post-war soldier drama. And I don't care what anyone says. When Stallone is in the right role, Stallone can act his ass off.
Yeah.
I think he's great in First Blood.
Mm-hmm.
He's great in Rocky. He's great in First Blood. When he gets the right role, he is fantastic, and he is great in that movie. The ending is...
You're telling me you didn't love Stallone in Grudge Match with Robert De Niro?
I don't hate that movie.
I don't actually think I've seen it.
I watched it on HBO like 6 months ago because I hadn't seen it. It's very dumb. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not a dumb movie. I had fun with it. Mainly because I'm like, it's Rocky versus Raging Bull! Ah! And I don't even like Raging Bull that much. Like, Raging Bull is not a top-tier Scorsese movie for me, and I'm still like, they were in the boxing movies!
Right. I should have, just as a joke, I should have put that in my top 15 sports movies. Grudge Match. What a movie. Shit, if Josh can put Draft Day in his, I can put a Grudge Match in mine.
I'm still mad about that.
That movie sucks. All right?
It's so bad.
Look, everyone loves Kevin Costner, okay? I mean, we're literally watching a game that's themed after Kevin Costner.
He's in the booth right now. He's sitting next to Joe Buck and John Smoltz.
But, like, Draft Day was poo-poo. My number 10 is a movie we've already talked about, and it's a movie that, to me, has kicked off the most unsung revolution of the 2010s, and that's the Raid Redemption. I told Mark last night that I think not enough people are paying attention to how good martial arts movies have been in the last decade.
Oh, they've been great.
And the Raid Redemption is part of that. And even then, John Wick, the action in that movie takes a lot of cues from martial arts and things that they did, obviously, with The Matrix and with The Raid. And, there's other movies like not even Indonesian ones. You can talk about Chinese ones like Shadow, like I mentioned last night as well, or even other Indonesian films like The Night Comes for Us. That movie is absurd and incredible and a marvel of modern action. And The Raid, to me, is what set it off. It's, again, one of those movies with a perfect action plot. There's a group of police guys at the top of the building as a crime syndicate leader. They got to fight their way to the top and kill the guy. And that's it. That's the movie. And it's awesome. Like, it's so good. It's so good. So, yeah, The Raid is a top 10 action movie of all time for me. Mark, what's your number 9?
Get to the chopper. It's Predator. Like I said, I originally had Predator in 80. I rewatched it, and it's now a 93. Like, rewatching Predator. I forgot. I've always had this strange fascination with Jesse the Body Ventura. Mainly because... Yes, former governor of Minnesota. And he had a conspiracy theories show on History Channel that I watched all the time as a kid. And whenever I see Jesse Ventura, and I'm just like, I really like that guy. He's not a good actor, probably not a good governor. Like, I don't care about wrestling. There's no reason for me to like Jesse Ventura, but I do.
One of my favorite lines in action movie history is from that movie. So when he sees Carl Weathers, like, you son of a bitch. And then they just have
they do the meme.
What'd you say?
They do the meme.
Right, they do the meme, and like it's the most manly shot in movie history. Probably. It's just a close up of these guys' two arms. They're oiled to shit. The beefiest men.
They're this big. Their arms are this big around.
Right. Exactly. Like I said, I think that shot has more testosterone in it than any shot in cinematic history. And he's like, "What? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils?" Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. I love Predator.
Shout out to Carl Weathers too. I love Carl Weathers.
Yeah,
that guy's just good in everything he's in.
I really loved. I think it was Mortal Kombat 10. One of the skin packs they had a skin that made Jax Carl Weathers from Predator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was 10 because that was the one. Yeah, that was the game that had Predator in it. So if you bought Predator, you got a skin that made Jax Carl Weathers. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Number 9 for me is a movie that when I said we got to slay some sacred cows to make a sacred burger, is what we're going to talk about here. Number 9 is The Matrix for me. I love The Matrix. I really do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it gets overhyped a little bit. And I don't want to dwell on negatives because, like I said, I think it's a great movie. But when I think of, and it's an iconic movie.
Yes,
right?
it is.
But the 8 movies I have ahead of it, I've either considered to be greater in quality or greater in iconography.
It's iconography, yes.
Yeah. Or Robocop, which still has yet to be brought up on my list. But
yeah.
that's in its own category, I guess. Why did they bring Heaney back out at the bottom of the 5th?
I have no idea.
Aaron Boone sucks. All right, what's number 8 for you, Mark?
I just want to say, I'm going to let the people know right now, The Matrix won't be appearing on my list. I think The Matrix is a good movie that
to me is heresy.
Well, like I said, the list is like movies I enjoy. And The Matrix is a good movie that I don't enjoy watching all that much. And like I've seen it probably 5 times, and every single time I'm like, yeah, I keep expecting to like it more. And I have it at like an 80. Like I think it's a good, really good, well-made movie. Obviously, it's iconic. Speaking of parodied scenes, fucking Bullet Time was in every movie from 1999 to 2006. But
I think part of it with The Matrix is like I think it gets a little too caught up in like the Y2K panic, like fake deepness.
Yeah.
Like I think that's where the movie stumbles. Is a lot of like its philosophical questions.
Didn't I say last night I don't like The Matrix because it reminds me of Rick and Morty fans?
Yes. Yeah, you did. And like I said, I think part of it is like I think actually now that I think of it, Y2K is like is a thing to point to with it, right? Like
that's the entire that's most of why it's just people try to bring that into it, and I'm just like, yeah, it's an enjoyable action movie that I'm trying not to look too deep into.
And in hindsight, as someone who was born in 1999, I've always thought the panic around Y2K was really stupid.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they were like, a computer gonna turn the clock and then everything's gonna fall apart. It's
literally turning a page on a calendar. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I've never understood it. But anyways, we'll move on. What's number 8 for you, Mark?
This is gonna. It's 2 movies, but I can't separate them. It's Kill Bill. It's Kill Bill 1 and 2, which I have at a 94 combined. I don't look at them as separate movies. I don't know if people like that take or not. It's just I can't separate the two.
I've always considered them separate movies.
I think Tarantino himself considers them one movie.
I know this was the big debate when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out.
Yes,
it was billed as his 9th film, even though it's his 10th, because Kill Bill came out a year apart from each other.
Yeah,
so they're 2 separate films. But he was like, "I wrote them together; they're one movie." That's not how that works. But okay, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to do, Mr. Feet Guy. All right. I don't really put too much effort into it. If he wants to think that they're one movie, and if you want to call them one movie, go for it. All right, don't care.
But yeah, they're great. It's another one. Uma Thurman is perfect. Is it? I never remember the first name because him and his father were both. It's David Carradine, right? Is Bill?
Yeah. He's the one who killed himself, right?
Yes, I believe he did.
Yeah.
Because I believe his father was also an actor. I believe his name was Bill Carradine. But is it Carradine or Carradine?
Carradine.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But
it's
I don't
just
think. Give me 1 second. Sorry. You can keep talking.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where I'm a huge Tarantino nut. It's not my favorite Tarantino movie, but it's up there. Where every time I watch it, I focus on different things. Sometimes I focus on the dialogue and like the writing. Sometimes I focus on the music and because I love how Tarantino uses music. It's one of my favorite parts of his movies. But when you just focus on the action, man, what an unbelievable looking movie. And another one, people forget that I forget the name of the song, but the when she's like walking down the hallway.
Yeah, the
bow, bow, bow.
Oh yeah.
That like Tarantino did that. That was a theme from like a 1970s bad Japanese kung fu movie. And Tarantino was like, what a piece of music. And he put it in Kill Bill. And now it's in everything for the badasses walking scene. It's just iconic pair of movies, one movie, whatever. So I've got them both combined at a 94.
So RoboCop,
I like the second one slightly better, but
RoboCop is number 8 for me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I mentioned with The Matrix, I said everything above it I either think is better made or what was the other qualification?
More iconic.
And the rest of them, 7 and above, I all think are better made movies than The Matrix.
Yes.
RoboCop, however, I don't think it's RoboCop. For all intents and purposes, isn't a great movie.
It's hilarious. Let's be honest here.
Adore RoboCop so much.
I do as well.
For the incredible balls that it took Paul Verhoeven to make that movie. Mm-hmm. And Paul Verhoeven has a really weird filmography. He made
very strange.
I believe it's Showgirls. Yeah. Very, very strange. RoboCop was his second English feature. He's a Dutch filmmaker. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know, man. RoboCop is a movie that I'll always come back to. It's absurd. It's stupid. Like it's one of my favorite scenes in action movie history is when they get the robot whose name the name and number combination I can't remember now, the big one.
Yeah.
When it just lights up the board meeting. It's one of the coolest scenes in action movie history. It's one of the most quotable movies for me. I say I buy that for $1 literally all the time. Like I also think it's an kind of like sneaky, smart satire on consumerism.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's something that kind of goes by the wayside a little bit. But yeah, I adore RoboCop, and I have no problems with putting it at number 8.
I'm just looking at Paul Verhoeven's filmography right now. Have you seen The Fourth Man? It's one of his Dutch movies.
No.
I really like it. You got RoboCop. This is a run he went on.
Okay.
These are all consecutive. RoboCop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Showgirls, Starship Troopers, Hollow Man.
That's certainly a run.
What, like... First of all, owned the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's just an incredible run of 90s movies.
Yeah, directed some of the most iconic shit of all time.
Yeah.
Basic Instinct. Everyone knows the scene with Susan Sarandon, right?
Yes.
Susan Sarandon in that movie?
No, it's Sharon Stone.
Sharon Stone. Shit.
But, like, have you ever seen Hollow Man?
No, I hear it's crazy.
It's crazy. It stinks. I really don't like that. It has its defender. It has sort of like a cult following now. Really don't like Hollow Man. And Showgirls is one of the most wild movies ever made.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen Showgirls. It's kind of fucking insane, actually.
That's actually, it's NC-17.
Yeah.
It's not even R. It's like
I said, Paul Verhoeven has balls. That's one thing you can say about that man.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, what's number 7 on your list?
It is my favorite Bond movie. It is Goldfinger. Which, yes, that means Casino Royale won't be on my list. I love Casino Royale, and it's not for a lack of it being a phenomenal action movie. It's just I wanted to give myself one Bond movie. And Goldfinger's always been my favorite, strictly because it has not only one of the great villains of action movie history in our Goldfinger, it has the single best henchman ever put in a movie in Odd Job.
Oh, yeah.
Odd Job, and I love that Odd Job lived on with GoldenEye 64, where you were the dick if you played as Odd Job. But it's just such a phenomenal spy movie. It is the gold standard. It's got such a crazy whack-ass plot that somehow manages to make sense. Like, you never question Goldfinger. And it has one of the more underrated things, in my opinion. Like, it's not underrated if you're thinking of, like, Bond movies, but the Aston Martin DB5 is such a cool fucking car.
Oh, yeah.
And it adds so much to the movie. He's got the oil slick, the machine guns. It's just... I could talk about Goldfinger all day because I'm a massive James Bond fan, which is why I wanted to keep it to one, because I could have thrown like 4 Bond movies on this list. And I just wanted to give myself one. Also, Pussy Galore. Last thing I'm going to say.
Again, one of the best lines in Bond history, where he goes, "What's your name?" And she goes, "I am Pussy Galore." And he goes, "I must be dreaming." It's one of the best lines in the entire franchise.
It is. And there's some great ones. And by great ones, like, most of them are like that. It's just like bad, cheesy dialogue. Yeah. And it's like which one is it with Halle Berry as Christmas Jones? Is that Die Another Day?
Die Another Day, yeah.
Yeah. I always get Die Another Day and Tomorrow Never Dies mixed up.
I think it's Die Another Day.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But, like, they're doing the thing at the end, and Pierce Brosnan goes, "I thought Christmas only came once a year."
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, but dumb. I love it.
Yeah, a lot of that is really terrible. If you were to put more... Yeah, it was Die Another Day. If you weren't restricting yourself, what other Bond movies would be on your list?
Casino Royale, Skyfall. Skyfall is my second favorite Bond movie. Casino Royale is my third. And just in terms of an action movie, I might put Goldeneye on there. Goldeneye is easily the best Pierce Brosnan one. It's not one of my top Bond movies.
It is one of my top favorite Bond movies.
It's really good. It's just, well, actually, I think it's probably my 5th rated Bond movie. So that might have, it would have snuck into the honorable mentions for sure, but it might have like maybe around 15 around there.
Gotcha. All right, number 7 for me is a movie we haven't talked about yet, actually. And that is, it's Die Hard is number 7 for me. I adore Die Hard, of course. We've talked about it before. I have this conversation with my parents every year about whether or not it's a Christmas movie. It is. Mm-hmm. Don't at me. But also, like, each of these movies has a thing that makes them incredible, right?
Yeah.
And the thing in Die Hard is the characters. Like, sure, the action's really cool in Die Hard, but, like, at the end of the day, it's like, sure, it's late 80s action. Like, that's, like, had it not been written as well as it was, and had John McClane and Hans Gruber not have been as good characters as they are,
mm-hmm.
the movie would not be nearly as well received as it is today. And those are two of the best characters, two of the most iconic characters in cinematic history. Fuck, everyone knows Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's, even though it's not my favorite line in the movie, my favorite line in the movie is where he leads the note and he goes, "Now I have a machine gun." Ho, ho, ho. That's my favorite line in the movie.
I always forget about that one. That's an incredible line.
John's note that he leaves on the dead body.
Yeah.
But, like, everyone knows Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Like, everyone knows that. And it's one of the most, like I said, one of the most iconic movies of all time. It's awesome. What can I say about Die Hard that hasn't already been said? You know?
Yeah, I have no bad things to say about Die Hard. It just misses the list for me. It's because I think the action is good. I think the action could have been done a little better. That's like my only... I think it's good, not great action. I agree with the characters. Obviously, Hans Gruber is one of the all-time great action villains. And I will never deny how great of a movie it is and how iconic it's become. It also doesn't help that it's not at the level of a couple more that I'm going to mention where I can ignore the really bad ones, like, fully. It's like...
I mean, I'm thinking of these movies in a vacuum, so I don't think about the Die Hard.
I understand, and I try to do that as well, but at the same time, I just think of, like, Bruce Willis, and I think it's kind of flukish. Like, I never thought Bruce Willis was a really great actor, and I think he just sort of walked into a good script, and I don't know. I really do like Die Hard a lot. I don't think it's the most rewatchable Die Hard. I think Die Hard 3 is.
Well, see, that's why I was about to say about your fluke comment, is like Die Hard 2 and Die Hard 3 also exist.
I don't really like Die Hard 2 all that much.
Oh, I do. I think it's good. Die Hard 3 is fantastic.
Yeah, Die Hard 3. I think Die Hard 3 is like a more rewatchable movie. But I don't watch that for Bruce Willis. I don't think Bruce Willis is great in that one either. I watch that for Jeremy Irons, who I think is fantastic, and Samuel L. Jackson because he's Samuel L. Jackson. Like, I just rewatched Die Hard 3 like a week ago, and I was sitting there thinking, like, man, Bruce Willis is sort of hamming it up. Like, I don't love his performance in that, but I think it might be, for me, the more rewatchable out of the two movies. I'd say Die Hard 1 is a better movie, but I enjoy watching Die Hard 3 more, I think.
I think that is the hottest take of it's got to be the hottest take of the whole show, is you not having Die Hard anywhere on the list or in the honorable mentions.
I forgot to mention it in the honorable mentions.
That'll go down as the hottest take of the episode.
It should have been in my honorable mentions. I just forgot to mention. Like I said, I didn't write down my honorable mentions. I didn't have like a list. That one just slipped my mind.
What's number 6, Mark?
It is Aliens. Which, what?
Nothing.
Aliens is fantastic. I have it at a 95 out of 100. That's how you know it's like these movies. It's very hard to like separate them for me now because they're all mid to high 90s. And Aliens is incredible, and I have zero bad things to say about it. It's just I think the movies ahead of it are like better. It's just it's a great movie, and on most people's list will be one or two for the most part, but I also included one that a lot of people like wouldn't think of as an action movie that I had to include, but
oh boy. Oh yeah, never mind. I know what it is.
Yeah.
I was trying, by the way, the entire time we were talking, I was trying to think of what movies are in your top 5. If you've already spoken about Predator and Aliens.
There's two that...
I know a couple of them for certain.
Yeah.
I know at least 2 of them are also in my top 5.
Okay. Probably not. One of them, I think, is.
I might have to choke the shit out of you.
Two of them are. Two of them are. Never mind. Because I was thinking you already mentioned one of them as an honorable mention, but you didn't. So 2 of them are.
No. Okay, number 6 for me is Kill Bill Volume 1 in particular.
Okay.
First of all, obviously, as I said before, I don't see them as one movie. I wouldn't combine them. Obviously, they're the same story, but to me, it's the same as any other movie and its sequel. You know, like
that's fair enough.
You know, and also, I don't like Kill Bill Volume 2 nearly as much as the first one. Kill Bill Volume 1 is my favorite Tarantino movie. Endlessly rewatchable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you said, Uma Thurman, and give me 1 second here while I'm thinking. There isn't really much in terms of like I'm not off the top of my head. I can't think of an action set piece that I've watched more times than the one in the dance hall.
Yes.
At the end of the movie, like at the end of Kill Bill, like that absolute fucking bloodbath. There's not a single movie, probably not a single set piece that I've watched more than that. And Lucy Liu as Oranishi, I'd like to add, is fantastic.
Lucy Liu, yes.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I always get Lucy Liu and Michelle Yeoh mixed up because they were both action stars around like similar era. Thank you, because I almost said it's Michelle Yeoh, right? And I'm glad you said it first.
No, it is Lucy Liu.
Yeah, they also have similar last names. It's like,
but Kill Bill is incredible. I love everything about it. Tarantino isn't as like stone cold on as I think a lot of people think he is. Like I tend to not be as Tarantino heavy as a lot of people are.
I love Tarantino.
I love a lot of his movies, but I also, have a lot of problems with a lot of them. So
yeah, that's fair.
And I think that Kill Bill is one of the couple of his movies that I would consider to be pretty close to perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy. That's just about where it goes. What about number 5 for you, Mark? We're getting to the top 5 here.
People are going to get mad at me for this one, I think. This, in my opinion, is an action classic, especially like an action thriller classic. It's Dirty Harry.
Oh, that's the cop movie you were talking
yes.
about. Yes. Oh.
I love Dirty Harry.
That's I have it at fair. I didn't really consider any of the Dirty Harry movies. I also didn't consider any of Clint Eastwood's westerns, almost for a similar reason.
I didn't do the westerns because I think western is its own genre on its own. I feel like you have like cop movies and then there's like cop action movies. And Dirty Harry to me is like almost as much, if not more, of an action movie than it is a cop movie.
Gotcha.
And it's funny because Speed is very much based on the end of Dirty Harry.
Yeah. Where
he's chasing a bus. Like, it's not the bomb, but the bus is going to keep going and he's got to stop the bus. Like, so that's another reason why Speed, I didn't want to mention it earlier, but that's another reason why Speed, like, didn't quite crack it for me. Because I think Dirty Harry is the better like guy needs to stop a bus like movie. Obviously based
genre. Guy needs to stop a bus movie.
The villain Scorpio based on the Zodiac killer, because it takes place in San Francisco, and just talk about iconic lines. You feeling lucky, punk? Like it's just it. I think it's Clint Eastwood's best movie. Not called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's number one, and like, but in terms of just the rest of Clint Eastwood's filmography, I think it's Dirty Harry easily. So I had to put it in my top 5. I love that movie.
I respect it. Like I said, hadn't even considered it.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even thought it. It wouldn't make my list otherwise. Like even if I had considered it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's fair. And like I said, I think people will get mad at me for that. That's like, especially putting it right above Aliens. Like people are going to be very mad at me, but it's just it's one of my favorite movies. I love Dirty Harry.
All right, so number 5 for me is the best action movie of the 2010s, and it's pretty indisputable in my opinion. That's Mad Max Fury Road. Mm-hmm. I saw the movie in theaters when it came out. I haven't had a single experience that was that blood pumping in a theater. It's 100 minutes of adrenaline from start to finish. The vitality that George Miller had directing it is a true marvel to me. The fact this man was in his 70s making this movie. Like, he's the guy, he directed the original Mad Max films.
Yes.
30 years prior.
Yes.
Like, it's insane that this guy has been this talented for this long. Obviously, he doesn't make very many movies, but when he comes out, and especially when he makes a Mad Max film, it's a true marvel. Like, it's one of those things where, like, I can't say it now because the movie's 6 years old, but, like, watch it on the biggest screen you possibly can. More importantly, watch it with the biggest sound system you possibly can.
So good. The sound in that movie is so
it's absolutely unbelievable. And it's a movie I've watched it many times since it came out. It's a true marvel of action filmmaking. And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, the performance is good. I don't know. There's really not much dialogue in the movie.
Not a ton. No.
Is the screenplay good? I don't know. It's kind of hard to follow what the hell's going on. Like, I get what's happening, quote unquote, but like, kind of just feels like things happen. But also, I don't give a shit because the movie is so exciting and so well made and so action packed. And oh my god, I love Mad Max Fury Road so much. What's your number 4, Mark?
My number 4 is the second best action movie of the 2010s. And it was in your honorable mentions, and I'm very upset. It's Mission Impossible Fallout. Mission Impossible, that is such an incredible movie. Not like, this is one where it's like, there's so much going on that, like I said, it was hard for me to like not look at the bad Die Hard movies when thinking of Die Hard. I can do that with Mission Impossible because it is that level for me. Because Mission Impossible 2 stinks. And I know you don't agree, but
I don't agree. I think it's okay.
It's just everything about this movie. I'm not even a huge Mission Impossible fan. I think Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation are really good. But I never considered myself to be a huge fan of the franchise. Obviously, the first one is, iconic in its own way. I don't know if I've ever been more hyped after watching a single bit from a trailer than seeing Henry Cavill cock his fists in the bathroom. and like the music in the background makes it sound like he's cocking a gun. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I love Mission Impossible Fallout. In one of the podcasts I listened to, they were like raving about it, and I hadn't seen it yet. And I was like, okay, I'm glad it's like living up to the hype, but I was still cautiously optimistic. I was like, there's a chance that this could not be as good as people are saying it is. It absolutely lived up to the hype. I love this movie. When you said in your honorable mentions, and I was like, oh, like that's because I think it's easily a top 5 action movie.
Okay. number 4 for me is a movie we already talked about, and it's tough for me to talk about it here at number 4 because I want it to be higher so much. I have a poster of it somewhere in here. I think it's in my closet. And it's Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
I love Aliens so much. Like,
I do too.
The xenomorph is one of my favorite things in all of movies. Like, I love the mythology behind it. I love all of the inspiration behind like H.G. Geiger and like all of his like weird like psychosexual kind of shit that goes into it. I even like the postscript Aliens movies like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and like I like those.
I think Prometheus gets too much hate. I really don't like Covenant all that much.
I thought it was okay. At the very least, okay. Obviously, Sigourney Weaver is iconic as Ripley. I think it kind of goes on talk about that that she was nominated for an Oscar for a role in Aliens, which is kind of insane when you think about it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm just looking now. It was nominated for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Oscars. Aliens.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things like the late 80s and early 90s had a little bit of it, and then the early 2000s had it again with like Lord of the Rings winning Best Picture and Gladiator winning Best Picture and that kind of stuff. Like, there's like these small pockets where like genre films like went out. Like Aliens got a bunch of nominations. It's a sci-fi action film. Silence of the Lambs is the only horror movie to ever win Best Picture. Like, again, that happens randomly here or there.
Yeah.
But Aliens is a perfect movie. It's an undeniable classic. There's not anything I could say about it that can't already be said about Aliens. Like, what the fuck do you want me to say? It's Aliens, man. Like, yeah, cool. What's your number 3, Mark?
My number 3 is before I make this statement, I need to make sure I'm not like being an idiot and forgetting one. Okay. It's the last truly great movie that James Cameron did. It's T2. He also did True Lies right after that, which I love, but it's not like a truly great classic movie.
I think a lot of people hold that up as like one of Arnold's best movies, though. Like, it showed up on every list that I looked at.
But it's more for like I feel like it's more for like the camp. It's a very campy movie. It's like
you're telling me you didn't like James Cameron produced Sanctum? No, Titanic.
No, I think Titanic is the most overrated movie of all time. Titanic pisses me off to no end every single time I watch it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either.
But yeah, it's T2, and we watched it last night. It's one of those movies where whenever it's on TV, it's just, oh yeah, it looks like I'm watching the rest of T2. It could be 10 minutes in, it could be an hour and 10 minutes in, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm watching the rest of this.
You know what's really funny? Last night when we were watching it, I wanted to leave so badly. Like, I was like, I just want to go home.
But you can't during T2.
I'm not kidding. I thought about it the first time like 20 minutes into the movie. And I was like, let me just stay and keep watching it. And then I had half an hour goes by and I was like, shit, I should probably leave. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Then you left at what?
Like,
2?
Let me stay and keep watching it. And then we finished the movie. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I went.
like, it's just Arnold, I think, is legitimately good as the T-800. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think it's very hard to do a robot, like an emotionless performance. Same with Robert Patrick. Edward Furlong, he was a kid. All right, we cut him a little slack here. Was he great? No. Was he?
Promise me you won't kill anybody.
Was he passable?
Because you can't do that. Why?
He was passable. Linda Hamilton, one of the all-time action movie badasses.
Oh, absolutely. 1,000%.
And like I said, what might be the single coolest thing in any action movie is the motorcycle chase where Arnold is cocking the repeating shotgun with one hand while riding the motorcycle.
Yeah.
It's just every time I see it. I
cool.
remember the first time I saw T2, I was like 10 years old, and I was watching it at a buddy's house. I remember it very vividly, and he had seen it before, and he was about to do it. He just goes, "Watch this," and I look, and he does that, and I almost shat myself. I thought it was so cool.
For the record, T2 is also number 3 for me.
Okay, so we can just have a big gooey love fest for T2.
Yeah.
And just, it's one of those movies too where people pop up in it. Like some of the actors, and it's like, oh yeah, they're in T2. Like I mentioned last night, his name is Joe Morton. I couldn't remember his name last night. The guy who plays Dyson. He's just like also Cyborg's dad in Justice League. And he's in what was the other one? He's in Speed. He's the captain in Speed.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just the doctor in the insane asylum who's in the first 3, Earl Bowen. He's in just everything. And it's like, oh yeah, that guy's in this. I love a good that guy. And Terminator has a few. T2 has a few of them.
Hey, by the way, we had a new record today in baseball.
Oh.
Or history today. We had the first brother-to-brother pitch since 1960.
Oh, the Romines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently the Cubs were getting bludgeoned, and they brought Andrew Romine in to pitch to Austin Romine.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. Anywho, what were you saying?
No, that's it. It's such a fantastic movie.
All right. What's number 2 for you, Mark?
You already mentioned it's Mad Max Fury Road. It's just unbelievable. I'm glad you said the thing about the sound system. That's an experience to hear that movie.
Like I said, I saw it opening weekend when it came out.
Yeah. The engines and all the noise that goes in it. It's just
it's I'll tell you this, it's the most excited I get about watching any action movie. Like we had a movie night with me and a few friends over the winter, and I brought over some stuff. Like I just grabbed a few movies, and Mad Max was one of them. And I was like, okay, what should we watch tonight? And nobody else in the room had seen Mad Max Fury Road, so I was like, we are watching this now, and it was unbelievably exciting. Like I love that movie so much.
And that's another one. You said it happens every once in a while. Won 6 Oscars, was nominated for 10.
Mad Max Fury Road?
Yes.
I assume it was mostly technical stuff. Like I don't remember it being nominated for like Best Picture.
It was nominated for Best Picture.
It was?
Yes. It won editing.
Damn.
I'll go through every one it won and then nominees. It won editing, costume design, makeup and hairstyling, sound mixing, sound editing, production design.
Like I said, it's one of the biggest marvels I've ever seen in filmmaking history. Like, yes. I'm in awe when I see that movie. Like,
and
honestly.
Then it was also nominated Best Picture, Best Director. George Miller was nominated.
You're goddamn right. He should have been nominated for that.
Cinematography and visual effects.
Yeah. What ended up winning for those categories that year? I don't remember the 2016 Oscars like that.
Visual effects, I believe, was The Force Awakens.
That sounds
right. Best Picture was
Spotlight. Right.
And I believe Tom McCarthy also won Best Director for Spotlight, if I remember correctly.
That's why I skip over that. Oh, that's why I don't remember that movie all that well. No, Alejandro G. Iñárritu won for
for The Revenant.
Yeah. Which, yes, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that absolutely makes sense.
I forgot that I kind of skip over that year because I saw Spotlight. It's good.
I love Spotlight. I think it's great.
It's great. Like I love a good like journalism drama.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But like 2016 for me looks like it was a kind of I don't know, kind of like a little bit of a forgettable year. Like Bridge of Spies, like was one of the big movies.
That one.
Big Short.
Big Short's fantastic.
It is. It is.
So is Room. Have you seen Room with Brie Larson?
No.
I love that movie. By the way, best cinematography was also The Revenant.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Fair. That's one of the prettiest movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and visual effects was Ex Machina.
Really?
Yeah.
That's whack.
Also, The Force Awakens was nominated. Okay. The nominees were Ex Machina, which won, Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, and The Force Awakens. That's a pretty stacked year for visual effects.
Yeah, but like Ex Machina is probably like fourth on that list for me.
Yeah, but I mean the robot.
The Revenant, for what it's worth, The Revenant would be last because there wasn't really very many visual effects in the movie. Like,
I mean, the bear looked really good.
It was the bear. That was it. That was all of it. The rest of it was very natural. To the extent it didn't use any artificial lighting.
Yeah.
It was only natural light that they used to film the movie.
So what's your number 2?
Predator.
Ooh.
It's my favorite Arnold movie. And it's look, I love T2. They're both perfect action movies to me. So it's really hard to make me choose, but Predator for me gives me more feeling. I feel like there's a lot more. Predator for me gives the tension. It gives sci-fi. It's almost a horror movie in some parts, especially towards the end after the Predator's already picked everybody off and it's just Arnold by himself, covered in mud, screaming at the Predator to come and get him. It's one of the most intense scenes in movie history. I said, I love T2 and I think it's a perfect sci-fi movie. And I love it, and I think the whole lore behind Skynet is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But Predator awakens something in me. I talked about the scene at the beginning with him and Carl Weathers, how that one singular shot has the most testosterone of any shot in cinematic history. The movie is just like adrenaline and testosterone and horror, just balled together in one intense package that culminates in one of the best ending battles between man and creature.
It's so good.
Movie history. Predator is so fucking good. A plus 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 for Predator. That's my answer. What's your number 1 action movie of all time, Mark?
Do you think you can guess?
Is it it might be the one that I left off of the list particularly because I'm still thinking of that movie. You haven't mentioned it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Seven Samurai?
It is Seven Samurai.
Okay.
Seven Samurai is one of, I think it's 7 movies I have at 100. Seven Samurai is a perfect film. It's weird. I love Japanese filmmaking, and it all stems from my love for the really cheesy 70s Godzilla movies. That's the thing, is that's how I fell in love with Japanese filmmaking. And then I watched the original Godzilla and I was like, oh wait, there's actually really good filmmaking over here. And then I was trying to do some research on who I should watch, and Akira Kurosawa came up.
Yeah.
And The Magnificent Seven is my favorite Western of all time. And when I found out that it was based on Seven Samurai, I'm not saying it's the best Western, it's just my favorite. I've loved it since I was a kid. When I found out it was based on Seven Samurai, I was like, I need to watch this movie. And everything about the movie is perfect. I'm not even going to go into detail. Just watch Seven Samurai. Do yourselves a favor. I don't care if you don't want to read subtitles. I don't care.
Or if you don't want to watch a movie that's in black and white. That's another thing about it.
I hate that take, by the way.
Seven Samurai, by the way, and I really do love the movie. This is the one that I left off because I didn't quite consider it like an action movie. To me, it's more of it's like an epic.
Yeah, it's also 3 hours and 47 minutes, I think, which doesn't help for a lot of people. But
right, so this is what I meant. It's a daunting task. It's 3.5 hours long. It's in 2 parts where you watch it monthly. It's on HBO Max. It's split into 2 parts.
Yeah.
And it's HBO Max, on HBO Max. It's in Japanese, and it's in black and white. And I understand all of that, but I just like to say, that Toshiro Mifune as Puccio in the movie is one of my favorite characters in cinematic history.
It's incredible, dude. He's so good.
Yeah. If I had the movie on the list, it would be very high.
Another one too, and one of the reasons I wanted to watch it is because Kanbei is played by Takashi Shimura, who's in the original Godzilla.
Oh yeah.
And so I recognize the name and I love him in the original Godzilla, and once again just incredible in Seven Samurai. It's just like I said, it's a perfect movie for me. It's with The Godfather and recent 100 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
What are the 7 movies you have rated as a 100?
I will get the full, it's Star Wars: A New Hope, The Godfather, like I said, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Casablanca, The Godfather Part 2, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Seven Samurai.
Nice. I'm surprised there aren't more movies that are more quote unquote modern on that list. I think the only one on there that's from after the 80s is Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
When did Godfather 2 come out?
74. It was 2 years after the first one.
God. So yeah, the one movie that's newer than 74 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That's crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mark, do you want to take a guess as to what my number 1 movie is?
I'm trying to remember ones you've mentioned and haven't mentioned. So mentioned Aliens, mentioned T2, mentioned Fury Road. Yeah, I don't remember what's already been on and not on the list.
So we already talked about how Goldfinger is the quintessential...
Casino Royale. Yeah.
The quintessential spy movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
That being
I forgot you said there were 2 Bond movies, yeah.
Casino Royale is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's if you put a gun to my head and told me to pick a top 15 favorite movies of all time, period, Casino Royale would be on that list.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a bit of a Bond historian. I took a class in college about Bond.
I also took that class.
Politics and film, right?
Yeah, I took the same class.
Yeah, so I know quite a bit about Bond's history, and part of this is context for me. Knowing about the movie is Bond was in a terrible spot in the early 2000s. You have Die Another Day, or you have 9/11, then you have Die Another Day, and all the while the Austin Powers movies are happening. It was very clear that Bond needed a change of direction, and I don't think there's no possible better film that you could have gotten out of that than Martin Campbell coming back from the ashes after having already made one of the other best Bond movies in Goldeneye, coming back and making a movie that is so sleek. It's Casino Royale is the embodiment of James Bond as Ian Fleming wrote it. If Ian Fleming wrote the fucking script. It's unbelievable to me how well they did the character in that movie. And it's so good, even it makes poker nerve-wracking.
Yeah, very tense.
And I think Mads Mikkelsen doesn't quite get the credit for being a perfect villain as Le Chiffre.
He is, if in my opinion, Goldfinger is the best Bond villain. I think Le Chiffre is number 2 for me. It's either Le Chiffre or Silva from Skyfall. They're I flop them back and forth all the time.
What I appreciate about Casino Royale the most, and again, this is someone who knows a lot about Bond and really appreciates the different eras of Bond. It did quote unquote dark Bond in a way that the Timothy Dalton movies couldn't quite do.
I like those movies, but you're right.
I do. License to Kill is probably in my top. It's somewhere towards like top 7 or so.
I think License to Kill gets a bad rap. I think that's a really solid Bond.
But where License to Kill in the Dalton movies became dark by having like more blood and like he lost his license and he's going rogue. What makes Casino Royale such a good movie to me is the emotional core behind it.
Yeah.
Like it's a complete deconstruction of everything people know about the Bond character. Like he gets his heart broken, and there's the scene where he's in the shower after he can't say the whole thing in the hotel where he feels like he's failed this woman that he's in love with.
That's my favorite scene in the movie.
Or even and it's fun. The movie's kind of gross at some points, like the torture scene.
I look away.
The torture scene where he's strapped to the chair and Lashif is torturing him, and you're like, they got him. Bond's done.
Yeah.
Like, Bond is fucked. And at the end of the movie, he doesn't win. The girl dies. Like that. It's
a shame that Quantum of Solace isn't good.
yeah.
It's a real shame. Same with Spectre.
I'm really excited for the new one, by the way.
I am as well. I mean, I love Ana de Armas. Like, put her in anything and I'll get excited for it. Not a huge Rami Malek guy, but I think he's a good Bond villain. Like, he seems like almost like a throwback Bond villain where it might be a little, like, it's still going to be dark and serious, but
it might be a little hammy.
Yeah, he looks like he might be a little more on the campy side.
He might ham it up in the same way that I think Javier Bardem did a little bit.
Yes.
Skyfall. You know? Yeah.
Which is why I love Javier Bardem so much, because he's such a ridiculous... I just think about the rap monologue.
Anytime you can get Javier Bardem to do a monologue as a villain, you need to just do it.
Yeah.
Right? You just need to fucking go for it. Okay?
But I just think about the rap monologue, and it's so ridiculous, and he's making the little noises.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting there, like, the edge of my seat, like, I know what he's going to say next, and I'm still hanging on every word. Like,
yeah, Casino Royale it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
We're going to do a Bond episode of the C-Listers.
Yeah, we'll do like a top 10 Bond films or something like that.
Yeah, because I can talk about Bond all day. I've seen all of them because I remember when I was like 12, BBC America was doing like, it was in anticipation for Skyfall. They just ran all of them. And so for 3 days, I did not leave my room. And I just watched every single James Bond movie in order.
I don't think I've seen all of them. I can say for certain that I haven't seen all of them. There was 24, right?
Yeah, No Time to Die is 25.
Okay. But I've seen 15 plus. There's only probably a handful or two that I haven't seen. So, yeah. And I'm half tempted to put Moonraker in my top 10 just to be an asshole.
It's so funny.
It's really bad, but like it's also really funny.
Yeah.
Moonraker was one of the Roger Moore ones, right?
Yes, that's Roger Moore.
That was like very close to when he became the caricature. Like he played Bond until he was like 53, and it was really bad.
And he was very noticeably 53 as well.
Yeah. We'll definitely do more of these in terms of like genre ones.
I like this a lot.
Genre tier, like this was a lot of fun. Somehow we, with the exception of you forgetting Escape from New York, we didn't come up with any ones that we forgot. Like I feel like this was a good list.
Yeah, like I said, I forgot to mention Die Hard in the honorable mentions, but like it's there for me.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anywho, we'll be back next week for the start of our actual NFL preview. I don't know how we're gonna format it now. We'll figure it out. Right?
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about divisions. We're going to be talking about storylines, doing some predictions, all that good stuff. We got just about a month until the NFL season starts, so we'll be sure to be all up in your face hole and your ear hole.
Yep. With
this content. Anywho, for Mark, myself, we got to do housekeeping stuff. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at HotStovePod. It's at HotStovePod on Twitter. make sure to subscribe here and subscribe to the C-Listers on YouTube. And for both of these videos, like, comment, hit the notification bell, all that jazz.
Mhm.
Hit up the CListers.com if Mark ever buys that domain again.
Like I said, follow me on Twitter for updates on the CListers.com.
Yes, at MPRowlands99.
Yes.
On Twitter. For Mark, I'm Zach. This has been an episode of Hot Stove After Dark. It's a long one.
I was going to say welcome to an episode of the C-Listers where I always say, I'm going to keep this one to a quick 60, and then it's an hour and 58 minutes.
I do it every week on Hot Stove. I do it every single week. I say I want to do this in about an hour, and usually it's an hour and a half at least.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anywho, for Mark, I'm Zach. We will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace.